Is Monday, August 12th. Let's see, we have a tavern brawl here that is the Brawliseum, which would cost 150 gold to play. And this is for the first time for me an instance where we have a win 3 tavern brawls in the middle of a tavern brawl costing extra gold. All other tavern brawls outside of Brawliseum ones have always been free. So we're in this unenviable situation where we have a challenge a friend that might be a little bit of a trouble, but probably wouldn't be for the Americas account. And so we have to re-roll the 60. There's a decent chance this is going to be worth less than 60 gold. Alright, we got around that somewhat well. Okay. So then that leaves us with playing Hunter cards, challenging a friend, and winning 3 games with Mage and Shaman. So let's go ahead and challenge a friend and see if this will work. Hopefully. Alright, real easy. We'll play Mech Hunter or Murloc Shaman. I'll just stick with Murloc Shaman to start off with. I decided to start at least an hour early. You know, a lot of times I stream at like 4 Central Time, so like 2:30 could be an hour and a half early. Just kind of felt a little bit more energetic to do that today. I probably went to sleep a little bit earlier than last night. Over the weekend, I mostly am still just working on trying to get my backup server up and working. Major progress is being made there. It's really just kind of a matter of slowly fixing things and configuring things so that everything works the way I want it to work. No longer am I stuck in the situation where I have to spend a lot of time typing in the password on the server to install everything. So once you're not spending 2 extra minutes to do every single action because you have to type in the password over and over and over again, that solves a lot of issues. Now it really is just coming down to configuration things and getting everything to work right. I just said that. I did one of the things that I'm doing on my server is because there is a data folder that has to be protected because of where it's placed. It's just a terrible system, quite frankly, from Nextcloud, which is something that they adopted from OwnCloud, which was where Nextcloud as a server forked off of. They kind of stopped making OwnCloud and changed it to Nextcloud. They have this system where they keep all the data in the folder that has all the web pages. So theoretically, somebody could just go to your website and access all of the files, the data that you're going to upload. Nextcloud is like a Dropbox-like service that you run your own server on, which can be both good and bad. It can be really good for security, but it can be bad for if you forget your password or if your servers break, because there's almost certainly less redundancy than what you would get from something like Dropbox, which is probably actually just Amazon warehouse backup service or something like that. So what that eventually breaks it down to is I have to take that folder and run a mount command using a special kind of file format module for the mount command, which is how Linux sets all the hard drives to be readable. So the mount command uses rebind fs or bind fs. I think it's called bind fs, and takes the data folder and puts it in a different place, and then treats it with different permissions, so other files can access, other server programs on the computer can access that information and make the best use of it. Darn it. So the rebind fs commands are particularly long and not inherently complicated, just really long paths to where the folder is and where the folder should be, and they have to happen later in the boot process. They can't happen at the beginning of the boot up process when the mount command automatically runs to add the operating system hard disk. So while I initially got it to work, and this is going to be technical and long and kind of boring, if it hasn't already made that obvious, I initially got it to work just using what is called sysv, which is the old Debian automated script system. So you make a script from like a sample file if you want, called rc.local, and it will just execute whatever you tell it to execute. I told it to run a different script that was more separate, just because while that adds complexity, it also separates out things, so if one change on a file doesn't corrupt a ridiculously large amount of other people's file settings. The script then just moves the config file for mount, the default config file, which is called fstab for file system table, I guess, would be my guess as to what that stands for. And that file is the only file that the command mount-a will use. If you don't use the command mount and with the option -a, which just means everything in the fstab file, then you would have to use the mount command to mount each single folder over and over again, which that certainly could be done. It's just not a efficient way to do things. It's probably actually the better way to do things than what I have set up, and I probably should change that to run this way. But it would be so much easier in Linux if you could just make a fstab.local or some other command on the mount command to say, don't use the default fstab file, instead use this other fstab file. But such a thing doesn't exist, so my solution in the script is simply to move the original fstab file, call it fstab.back for backup, and then move a pre-configured secondary fstab file to the point where the original was, then run mount-a for mount all, then move everything back, which is successful, but it's a nightmare safety-wise, because one wrong move and you potentially either lost your original boot up file, and the next time your computer boots up, it won't boot up next time your computer restarts, or you lose the new fstab file with all your configurations, which are long and complicated, and that's not a successful way. It's also just adding a lot of writes to the file system, just moving files back and forth. And when you're talking probably one of the most important files you can have in a Linux operating system, it's not, it doesn't feel like a safe way to do things. Since that point where I got it to work, though, I've decided to, in working with other things, often in any Linux project, because it's all very similar. So if you're installing Apache, you're probably learning a little bit of PHP, a little bit of scripting, a little bit of other things too. So as I was working on setting up a different service, I figured out how to use the new daemonized service system that Linux Debian is supposed to be going to. I guess I didn't get a victory when beating a friend. Interesting. Well, then why'd I bother to play the shaman? Let's try the mage. I haven't played the mage in a while. So the thing that's replacing System V or SysV is System D, and it's daemonized, which daemons are, I don't know where the name came from. It looks like you asked for it. You spelled almost like demon, and it pronounces it almost like demon. But there's what it does is it tells a lot of different services, and Windows has services too. They're just all very low-level things that you really wouldn't understand. It defines which ones need other services to be running before they can be started. So it doesn't, for instance, try to... what would be a good example? Well, it doesn't try to run the web server in particular until the hard drives are mounted. That's the basic issue here. Is like, it would be ridiculous to try to read files if the files and the hard drives aren't mounted and they're unreadable. So you would establish that, look, it needs these elements to already be running, these services. And so then System D will go, well, if it needs these other services, let's start these other services if they're not started. And when it goes and looks at those services, it might find, oh, actually these services also need these other services, and it just works. It works its way up through a tree until it gets to the top of the tree and says, well, we can't run this until the operating system in the computer is on. And at the top of the tree you'll have something that doesn't need anything to run, and that'll run first and start, and then once that successfully starts, the next thing below will run and start. And so the concepts behind System D and daemonizing it and having these services, they make sense. That they're safer, they're more well thought out, that they really do have concepts and ideas in them that would expand on that idea.
Like behold the tools of creation.
Cards that summon minions will summon twice as many. All right.
We must band together, united for Dalaran.
Behold the tools of creation.
Okay.
Return to nothing.
The only thing here is that we've got the secret trap, so we're gonna have to be careful. So yeah, I've been having a lot of trouble trying to figure out how to use systemd. It's a more complicated process by far. It's not a simple system where you just say run this. That's at least it's not been that easy for me to do.
Someday I'll be just
Alright.
like you.
Oops. That is not what I intended to do at all. Same cost to replace it.
Ha! You call that magic?
Like I've totally just ruined here. I've totally just messed this up. I don't see much of a way of succeeding from this. So yeah, I'm trying to learn new things. Certainly with the Linux server. What this inherently and obviously means is I haven't done any other recording. I do have it set up where it's copying backup files, and in a funny way, I'm just kind of getting the backup files set up because I want I want to back them up before I format the hard drive and move it on to something else. But that's going to be a long process because I had to plug in a USB external hard drive to move the files over, and then when I plug in the new hard drive, I'm going to have to do something I haven't done before, which is to change the ZFS RAID pool from referring to all of the hard drives by their location, which I thought would have been the right thing to do. It doesn't seem like that's really the case, at least not at the moment. Maybe later it will make more sense to do that. I think the problem here is I'm gonna have to consider a different path to what I'm trying to do, which is
Great idea. Arena's full. Beat.
Great idea.
the idea on the RAID is to be able to plug in a new take out a bad hard drive, plug in a new hard drive. It automatically go, okay, that's in the same position as the one we just lost. Let's add that and use it as a replacement for the one that was missing. Because that's ideally what you would want on a server. This is theoretically what happens in like a Google server farm, is that you have a hard drive that is blinking an error or because it's failed, and you pull that one out and you put a new one in, and that's potentially somebody's entire job. But what occurs there is actually not something that works. So I'm not 100% sure what the real solution to that is.
Great idea.
So yeah, that's something that I would have to consider too. Is just, am I in this weird position where if you try to add that extra functionality, it will screw up the whole RAID array? Because right now it screws up the whole RAID array. It's looking for each specific hard drive to be in each specific position. If I plug in this hard drive, it puts the hard drive that I plug in at the beginning of the list, which shifts everything by one outside, which is not a which just says then all the hard drives are missing because none of them are in the right place. inherently for the RAID array too, that also means that if all the hard drives were just pulled out and shuffled, that it would be close to impossible to figure out how to plug them back in the right place. Although it might be doable if you have enough time and energy and are willing to try that kind of idea.
Great idea.
So, so to fix that on the RAID array, and these last few episodes are just going to be a introductory to running Debian Linux or Linux Mint Debian Edition setup as a server. But to fix the fact that the hard drives would get moved out of all the place, then the solution is to have all of the disks identify themselves by a newer system called the UUID. Theoretically, the UUID is a algorithm that's used to give a unique it stands for, I think, Universally Unique Identification Number. I guess there's no number that. It gives a unique, long descriptor of each of the hard drives, so that regardless of what slot they would be put in, it would still be able to find them. And that is built into Linux and other systems. So it's not a terrible idea. A way to go about. I'm not even trying to play cards right now. That's not even a daily quest. It's not a terrible system. It just does not fix the problem of when a new disk is put in, will it be used to replace the old disk without having to type in any lines of code? Because if you have to type any lines of code in, then it just gets more complicated and more dangerous. And definitely gets away from the concept of just having a low-level employee replacing hard drives. I'm thinking, let's see, what were we trying to do here? Just to double check. Let's play a little hunter, and let's play casual and everything. Since we'll just be trying to play cards. Trying to get up to 500 ranked wins in Hearthstone at this point doesn't even matter. What's occurring to me now is maybe I could set up some hot spares using the locations, even though the locations are missing.
Shall be mine. Let the hunt begin.
But I don't know how that would work either. I think what will have to happen is I'll have to set it all up and then set it back to the way it is, so it refers to the locations all over again. And even at that point, I don't know if that's still the best way to do things.
Job's done.
While the ZFS system does have an auto expand flag you can set up, where it would just use a disk and use it in its totality, that auto expand function can only work if the disks are even slightly in the same size range, which is not the case for me. So inherently, if I bought 16 4 terabyte hard drives and had that set up, that would be fine. But then 2, 3, 4 years down the line, even 8 years down the line, when one of those 4 terabyte hard drives fails and you plug in a 8 terabyte hard drive, that's for extra terabytes that you just plugged in would go to waste. There's really no way to expand the hard drive RAID like that if it's just using auto expand until you've actually replaced all 16 of the drives, or at least a significant number of all 16 of the drives. Which that's definitely a problem. That's why my crazy 76 array concept that I'm running right now has more appeal, is because it's using as much of the hard drives as possible by breaking it down into the least common denominator, which is about half a terabyte. So some of the drives are about half a terabyte, and so there's only one of all of that hard drive is used as one piece. Some are 1.5 terabytes, so then it's divided into 3 separate partitions, and then those 3 separate partitions are added individually into the RAID array. And then there's definitely some 4 terabyte hard drives in there that are turned into 10 or 12 partitions. Whatever. Yeah. 4 terabytes would be 8 partitions, I think. Yeah. I don't want to do the math right now. And yeah, there's only a couple of mostly web server services that I'm setting up. I'm trying to set up DLNA or Universal Plug and Play streaming, and the software on that is not great in general. Let's try this custom hunter deck. I think I might play slightly more hunter cards. That's DLNA, Universal Plug and Play streaming as a service, is something that's nice to have. It's like streaming to a PlayStation or Windows PC or something, streaming music videos and photos. It's a nice function to have. It arguably never gets used. Arguably a lot of services I set up in this server don't ever get used. And that goes even to like a high level statement. Like, I have definitely some music that I never listen to on Google Music, and in general I don't listen to music ever outside of video game music, and yet I have it. Over the decades, I've made a couple of failed attempts at understanding music, and I eventually just always boil down to I'm tone deaf, and so thus have very little appreciation of it. It is also worth mentioning that I think all music in general is pretty bad, and so if you don't have that love for something like if you don't have that kind of love for something like pop music or rock or metal or something like that, once you're outside of that fandom and the groupdom around that kind of concept, I think it's pretty easy to realize, oh, I kind of don't like any of this. And then that's true for most people. It's like when you exclude the genres you like in music, you kind of never listen to / hate all other genres of music. So it's kind of not surprising that that kind of turnabout would occur. Kill this. Let's see. And then there's just web server stuff. So I'm getting close to the end of getting everything set up. So maybe another week at most, hopefully. Not this entire week is already set up to in which I'm gonna probably do nothing Tuesday or Thursday, so the idea of getting into a game kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm supposed to be playing Warlock cards, and I'm just getting victories on casual, which doesn't matter. Well, I guess that wasn't a victory. Alright, so we need 25 more of those Warlock cards to be played. Just need to focus on playing Warlock cards, that's it.
Rexa versus Maiev.
There was something else I was thinking about, but I've now lost it. Oh yeah, so I was also going to mention that in the middle of working on the server, I also took a vacation from a vacation of working on the server and spent a day trying to update my router. DDWRT custom firmware is installed on my router, and it's been a while. It's been about a year since I've updated it. It's not the kind of thing that I like to update too often because it is, let's face it, for lack of a better word, DDWRT is custom kind of beta software. Forever, perpetually in beta, adding new functions and abilities, not really trying to lock down things into a stable release. They've long since kind of abandoned the concept of releasing a stable release because there's just too much that you'd have to do and test and set up to release a stable version. They do have a stable version that if you go directly to their website, you can get, but frankly it's the suckers version. You're much better off going to their beta FTP service and just installing the newest one. If the newest one doesn't work, install the second newest one, install the third newest one, just work your way backwards. It turns out, and I figured this out from my water heater with its Wi-Fi module, which now that I've connected it correctly seems to be working pretty well. I'm not going to say it's 100% well, it does feel still like there might be some small issues of if you were trying to adjust the temperature via the Wi-Fi app, you probably are going to have to try 5 to 20 times for that setting to lock in. But the schedule is working, and I think that's about as much as I can say, and that's about as much as I think it really needed to do. Is just have it be a what am I trying to say here?
I wonder what this does. Share the wealth.
Yeah, just having the water heater follow a schedule is all I really needed to do. You're really not going to change the temperature too much. I have it set to 120 degrees, which is the temperature you're supposed to have it set when you're running a dishwasher. So for about an hour every day, it heats the water up to 120 degrees. And then for the rest of the day, for the most part, it's 93 degrees, just barely above like the lowest setting at all for washing your hands. Like you can just turn on the hot water completely and just get slightly warm water without any risk of scalding or burning at all. 120 degrees will scald and burn you, quite frankly. And then I have it set for in the mornings when people would bathe at 110 degrees. I think maybe even 115 might be reasonable, maybe even 113, somewhere in there. And just locking in that schedule and living with that schedule is hopefully much like the Nest thermostat, which or the smart thermostats in general. I'm using an Ecobee thermostat right now. Hopefully that reduces the usage. Now this is a natural gas water heater anyway, so it's already majorly more efficient than what it was there because that was like a 12-year-old water heater, and so we'll see probably a reduction in usage with no real reduction in cost or expenditure, because I'm sure my gas bill is mostly just service fees and tax riders and garbage that
How much is this
are
worth to you?
going to charge. People are going to charge you regardless of how much you use. But it's nice. It's nice to see that. It would be hard, even though I have like a gas oven range and a gas oven too. I would have to replace my dryer with a gas dryer, which does have a hookup for that, and then I would have to be running, I think, the water heater at high, the oven on high, the range on high, and the water heater and the drying machine all on high quite a lot before I think it would show any kind of significant increase in the monthly bill. So I'm really just being efficient for efficiency's sake more than anything. But it's working. But to get away from that story and back to the story, because I am really just rambling here at this point. I found out through the water heater that it wasn't connecting to the internet. I thought it was the water heater. Actually, it was the router. So apparently everything else was working kind of fine, but the protocol, the entire software, basically, of DNS crypt, which I'd set up probably a year, maybe two ago, which encrypts the connection between a DNS server and you. So if you're trying to type in www.google.com, somebody can't be in the middle of that connection and say, oh, they're going to google.com, because you have to first connect to your domain name system, your DNS server, and then it tells you google.com is at this IP address, and the IP address is a collection of numbers, depending on if it's IP version 4 or version 6. And I'll talk about IP version 6 in a second. So that the added encryption there of DNS crypt was working, but the person who was running and making the software abandoned it, basically. And so now it's an abandoned concept that I guess was not embraced by the industry, in favor of two competing new standards, which is DNS over HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secured, or DNS over TLS, which is TLS is kind of the same technology. It's just a little bit different. They're both kind of the same thing. But to get either one of those to work required a ridiculous amount of work and setup that I had to do on my router. So I spent an extra 2 days setting that up, and I'm not 100% sure it's still doing what I wanted to do, because I also had ad blocking going through that, and I'm not sure if I've got the ad blocking working or not. I guess I would need to go to a website and see. Actually, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure it is still working just fine. But it certainly was a nightmare because I changed settings and then all of a sudden it stopped working. Configuring it, the script is incredibly finicky. One mistyped word or letter just causes it to crash and not work at all. So there was a lot of times where I was just saying, let's just give up and reload from a backup that we know works and call it a day. That's kind of where it often would end, but then I would get ambitious again and I would want to try again, and so I'd try again, and that's why it took about 2 days, and in the end it still really only slightly replaced the thing that no longer is supported. And it's done in a very awkward way. This is a new experience for me, for sure, in which I had to install software, actual software, by installing a software installer onto the very stripped down Linux build that is running on the router. The DDWRT is based on Linux. So I had to install a package software, a software installer, then use that software installer to install a program called Stubby, S-T-U-B-B-Y, and that Stubby service is what is being used to create the to do DNS over, I believe, HTTPS is what it does. I haven't even done really enough research to see if it actually is necessary to set up both services.
Ooh, I wonder what this does.
It seems from where the standard is, since it's kind of such new technology, like right now is not the time to install the latest version of DDWRT if you're trying to get this to work. So yeah, that's maybe a year from now I'd work on it again. What I got wrapped up into, and really I'm just letting obsessive experiments take over my life here, and working on computers. I'm clearly in in a mood as it is for working for computers, and eventually that mood will leave me as a little bit. I always am fine with working with computers and kind of happy to work with computers, but I'm not, as I'm trying to be a YouTuber making content, I'm not super ambitious to do that and make it a full-time effort. But I got ambitious, and I attempted to set it up to use IP version 6. IP version 6 is a heavily expanded version of the old Internet Protocol systems. IP version 4. It has a lot more addresses for the Internet of Things, so that every device potentially could have its own address. It seems also like it is definitely more built around the concept of there not really being a default gateway, at least in the setup I've seen. So instead of doing the process, and maybe this can be done, and this is really where I tried to set up IP version 6, and long story short, I gave up on it and turned it off again. It needs to be turned on. I need to set it up. I need to learn this new system. This is what I'm running into over and over again, is I have technology information, but with every day, every year, that technology information gets older and older and not industry standard anymore. So I've got to you have to keep yourself educated, you have to continuously learn, and I'm just not really doing that. So ideally, yes, I need to set it up for IP version 6. The problem there is I want some isolation in it, and I'm having... I ran out of time, frankly, and ran out of energy to figure out how do I assign IP version 6 addresses to these locations, and then also have them controlled and not exposed outside to the rest of the internet. The local area network part, the LAN, is where most of the everything except for the server should stay. Every cell phone, every computer, they should not really be accessible or addressable outside in the internet. And I expect them to have a certain address for certain devices, just for my own personal use. So there's some static IP addresses that I need to set up for IP version 6 based on their MAC addresses, which MAC address is just kind of a permanent address to identify a device before it has an IP address. So you want to translate that MAC address to an IP address. And so yeah, I'm just having bits of trouble still trying to figure out how that would work. And it needs to work though. That IP6, it works from my ISP just fine, and possibly I might be getting the short end of the stick as far as speeds, but I doubt it. I doubt they would bother to care to give preferential treatment to a device that uses the old technology. But there is this slight danger that eventually IP version 4 devices are just not allowed on the internet at all. Not real danger though. Like, there's just far too many devices. But I could see 10 years down the line just a deprecation where they're saying we're not going to support this at all. But it just complicates everything. IP version 6 does. How to set up a default gateway, what is the loopback address on IP version 6, what is the local range that you're supposed to give to private addresses. And I can look up each of those things, but getting the configuration on the exact software I'm using is the problem. So yeah, I'm just going from distraction to distraction, all the while also watching all the borrow rescue there seems to be. I think at this point I've probably seen 95% of all the episodes. So I think by this next week I'll just have it down to watching new episodes, which that's always nice and fun too, is if you're just down to the if you can get into something, watch all the episodes and binge it and then get out of it, that'd be fine. I still need to watch like Stranger Things season 3. There's definitely a different experience like between the two. Stranger Things season 3 I kind of want to give 100% of my attention to. Bar Rescue, definitely don't need to give that much attention to it. But I am definitely learning a few things here and there, but not really anything that would be useful. Unless one were to actually try to run a bar or own a bar, which would be a stupid thing, particularly for me to try and do. Since school's about to start, it occurred to me, technology-wise, and I've, of course, obviously been on a technology kick. I am a nerd, geek-type person, obviously. If you've been listening to what I've been rambling about, so up until this point, that's pretty obvious. I just gotta play this.
I wonder what this does.
I comply.
Job's done.
It occurred to me, and I don't know if there's any kind of national standard in the US on this, or if this is done anywhere else. A lot of people have their phones on Do Not Disturb mode. Most jobs, you're not 100% free to take every single phone call that you might get or respond to every single text. I know it certainly would irritate me if I was a boss in a lot of scenarios, and I'm sure it would irritate a lot of other bosses to have employees that are just constantly on their phone. That being said, you kind of need your phone, or at least you feel the need your phone, in case there's an emergency as your kids are going to school. So, is there a standard now? I mean, there definitely should be. Do the schools say, if we're gonna call you, we're gonna call you from this phone number, and that way you can take that phone number, add it to your contacts as far as a Do Not Disturb mode exception, and use that, and that way if the school's nurse's office or the school principal is trying to contact you as a potential parent of a child at that school, you could actually get that message and actually hear it. Because I can definitely say I'm fairly certain when I was in school, which is a long time ago, there were a lot of outgoing lines and numbers, and while there may be a range of phone numbers that you might see on caller ID from it, and caller ID would solve some of this, but not all of it, particularly the Do Not Disturb mode, because you can't really make a range of phone numbers easily, at least in Android that I know of, to say any of these numbers are acceptable. So yeah, when I was in school, almost certainly the
Ooh, I wonder what this does.
the teachers and the nurse and the principal and all would call from any number of phone numbers to try to get a parent. Now, inherently, before cell phones too, trying to get in contact with a parent was probably considerably more difficult. And if you call somebody's office, at least back in the day, and tried to contact somebody, at least at one of my jobs, that they would not really send the message to you. Maybe if the secretary at the office felt it was an actual important message, they might pass you a note, but that's kind of it. And if you're working at some other jobs, I imagine back in the day when voice recorder telephone answering machines were a thing, that's pretty much how you would get any messages, and if you were called during the day, because parents would be out at their jobs unable to be contacted, and kids would be at their jobs. There definitely was a story of a kid that went to my school in elementary school, and he was hurt rather badly, and they did not bother to really do, oops, I traded out the wrong things. They really didn't, he like broke his arm or something, and the school nurses didn't really bother to contact anybody until after way too long, and they didn't really try to do anything to help him at all, and so he's just like broken arm flopping in the wind, and until the parents, who was very angry at that point, and justifiably so, showed up and had to take him to like the ER. I assume that this is mostly because the elementary school I went to, at least one of them that I went to, was particularly bad in general at doing their job. I think most elementary schools nowadays are more than happy to call an ER and an ambulance if it's a real issue. They don't want that liability, and they don't want to have to deal with anything like that. And also, arguably, when I was in school, I imagine there were more parents. Yeah, there were definitely more instances of a teacher calling my parents than normal, because teachers definitely did not appreciate my attitude towards them, and the feeling was mutual. I definitely didn't appreciate their attitude towards me. And it's quite hilarious instance where I did something on the final test in the essay portion. Like, I just rated one of my teachers in like high school, and so this was probably, oh, I'm such an intellectual type thing. It was probably snotty, and it was definitely rude, but he was a particularly terrible history teacher. He was probably a coach, and so I wrote in the final essay in history, which stupid that you're writing essays in history about, well, I guess that's not stupid, but there was a ridiculous amount of writing in high school. That's a separate issue. So I rated him, and I go, like, you really haven't taught me anything here all year. And I'd been really nice to him. I had just stayed quiet in there and not really messed with him or said anything. And I guess that's probably what irritated him more than anything, is that I had not given him trouble at all during the during the entire semester. And so at the end of the semester, I figured, look, you're just terrible. You really are. You have taught me absolutely nothing in this semester, which is true for a lot of classes in schools. And, I either would have an innate understanding and knowledge of what is going on, what has already occurred, and thus I already knew what they were talking about. This is inherently in part because the repetitive nature of education is that they're just teaching you the same thing you learned the year before in a lot of classes. So anyways, I wrote in this essay, like, you've been terrible. I haven't learned a single thing, and something along that lines. So the history teacher got pissed off, no way to put it otherwise, and called my house and receives my mom, and she, for whatever reason or other, somewhat defended me, which is kind of shocking in itself, because she knew I could be disagreeable, to say the least, to a lot of teachers. I'd been horrible to other teachers, and like, the teachers talked for the most part, and they knew this. So, but she kind of defended, and she's like, well, whatever, and then he apparently was not getting the reception. I don't know what reception he thought he was gonna get. I kind of feel like he felt like he was gonna enrage her enough that she would, like, I don't know, slap me or something, beat me as soon as I get home, or something like that. I don't know what he was thinking there. and he was not getting that reception. And so he says, well, can I speak to the man of the house? And that really pissed her off, because basically she was the man of the house. And she got really mad and started yelling at him. And so now she's got two people yelling at him for being basically a jerk. And she calls the principal. And so then the principal gets involved, and she's going down to the school yelling at the principal. And this is an interesting story about, is a principal really a manager of a school? Are they really the boss of the teachers? Kinda not, because of school teacher unions. So the principal had to try and smooth everything over, as she is super mad now at the teacher, and she doesn't care what I did. And it was a pretty funny scenario. Definitely not how it usually went. But yeah, that she yelled at the principal, and she wanted that guy, the teacher, to come in and discuss it. And the principal's like, I've talked to him, and I don't think anything would be gained by talking to him. So they both were clearly pissed off at each other more. It's probably an interesting story also, because it goes to show, if you can really take this, and I probably did not take this realization at the time. It probably goes to show that adults, in a lot of ways, are just as childish as at this point it would be a high school level kid who's probably a little bit more mature than average, but not by much. And yeah, it was probably a lot more years after high school that I started to realize, oh yeah, there's definitely most adults. It's not even some. It's definitely most adults are 100% as childish as kids are. They might be more sneaky about it, more conniving about it, that they might not be as outspoken about it. But when it comes down to it, there isn't this great point in maturity that occurs. There's an old joke, I don't remember who said it, that kids have nothing to cry about. It should be the adults that should be crying. They have to pay bills and put up with bosses. But yeah, once you work a few jobs, you'll start to find out that most bosses are immature and childish. Unless you just happen to find a great one, which, if you do, congratulations. Two secrets, and neither one of them are the flame secret. Interesting. Alright, well, you might have kind of told that there's, on this Monday, not a ridiculous amount of news from all of this rambling. I think it is worth mentioning that Gearbox, not Gearbox, 2K Games did apparently admit, my understanding of the story is they admitted directly to Inside Gaming, which is a mainstream video game media website, that they did put copyright strikes on the YouTuber who was leaking information, which he was really just reporting on information that was being leaked from 2K themselves and Gearbox themselves. So they did admit to some strikes, and after the admittance, let's move over to the European account, they also apparently, according to the claims, have now done over 92 DMCA strikes. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the actual number is even over 100. There's no reason to put that many DMCA strikes on somebody's channel. This is astroturfing to the maximum. When it only takes 3 DMCA strikes to have a geez, I kind of don't want to re-roll either one of these because I could get both done with just playing the warrior. But whatever. 3 games with the druid and rogue. We've done this one too, right? Yeah, it will be the agent account that we need to do. Let's start with warrior and just play regular. Oh, might as well play ranked. So there's more than I would have expected a increase in people calling for a full blacklist, a full boycott of 2K games and Gearbox and Borderlands 3. There's really nothing here that makes 2K look in a good light as far as I'm concerned. Even if they were in the right, there's being in the right and then there is being excessive in being in the right. If they were truly in the right, they should have been humble. They could have easily done 3, maybe even 10 DMCA strikes in their most important things. The fact, in fact, that they're paying the lawyers to file all these DMCAs is ridiculous. This is way over the top. It's not like they needed 90 plus DMCAs to defend their copyright. That's not how the DMCA works. It has never been a claim that you have to DMCA every single person, otherwise you're guaranteed to lose your copyright. That is true for trademarks. There might be an argument there, and that there certainly have been attempts in the past to claim trademark infringement as a way of not filing DMCAs, but that's not really succeeded much either. The excessiveness of the amount of DMCAs really should have Google saying, actually, we're just going to ignore all DMCAs from you completely because you're clearly abusing the system. If you take us, Google, to the court, and we'll fight it on your behalf, on our users' behalf. What does this really say, when you think about it, about streaming Borderlands content at this point? Like, I don't think I can play Borderlands anymore.
Job's done.
Like, I was going to play Borderlands the pre-sequel. I already own that game. I don't think I can stream that now. Because if 2K Games decides that they're going to DMCA my channel and delete my over 8,000 videos that I would have at that point, I have just slightly under 8,000 right now. Like, I can't afford that risk. It's the same reason I don't play Nintendo games. 2K is banned at this point. They have to be blacklisted, and that's gonna suck, certainly, because I don't think I can play Borderlands 3 on video, and if I can't play Borderlands 3 on video, then I don't see why I could spend my time on that. So they've just actually lost the sale for me. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic, I'm not being silly, I'm not being ridiculous, really. They have actually lost a sale for me. I was already in a position where, I'll get it on Steam when it's cheap, 6 months off of that point. Now I'm at the point where I would never get Borderlands 3. It doesn't make sense. It's too dangerous. The only thing that could convert me back into a purchaser, and I'm not even talking like I'm gonna pirate the game and play it on my stream or something like that. I'm never gonna bother to play the game at all because I can't make footage of it. Borderlands 3 was clearly going to be one of the top 3 games that came out this year, and now every streamer who is intelligent won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because they might be the next one to get 93 DMCA strikes. The only thing that would convince me to buy their game now is if they came out and reversed all the DMCA strikes and said they were sorry for this and this was a rogue employee and this is not standard procedure and this is not our policy. And that's not what they're trying to do. Instead, what they're trying to do is have Inside Gaming, which is basically a paid mouthpiece mainstream video game journalist site. Inside Gaming, I believe, was IGN's website before they changed their name or something along that line. Or maybe it was Pretty Good Gaming or something else. Yeah, instead of trying to get good PR or pay people for good PR, they've got to actually change their actions and apologize for their actions instead of saying that they're in the right. Because you're never going to win that argument. You just are not going to convince people that it was a legitimate, all 90 plus of those DMCAs were the legitimate claims. The idea here that because Twitch's service leaked screenshots, a screenshot in the form of reporting on a screenshot as news is fair use by every thought and measure. This is going to be a precedent-setting case if it actually went to the courts of violation of DMCA and establishing of what fair use is, unless there's something on their page, on his website, his YouTube channel, which is now scheduled for deletion as the story continues to evolve, that unless there's something on his web page that's his YouTube page that's showing more than screenshots, which that claim clearly hasn't been made. So they really should expand their claims if they were going to do something like that. I'm on Twitter right now looking for new news. Somebody retweeted. Somebody used the deepfake software to, or they claimed it was a deepfake software. Although, frankly, this would just need to be like a overlay tracking software of any kind. They skinned the trailer for the new live-action Lion King to make it look like the old animated Lion King, or closer, at least in palette and tone and some of the hair manes of the lion, and it looks way better. Like, the idea that this didn't occur to them, for it to be a more bright and colorful, cartoony show, and instead they made it 100% realistic, is silly. But I also would have to say, I doubt that there was anybody that worked on the live action Lion King project that was given any kind of budget or any kind of freedom to do anything outside of the cheapest possible work. The only reason that they are making these live action movies of the old Disney cartoons is so that they can claim copyrights for longer and longer amounts of time on things that already exist, and so that they can drum up sales of the originals, because this is really just Disney counter-programming to their own already existing properties. They're just trying to get you to go back and watch the cartoons again, and I think that that's working rather well.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Let's see. So I'm trying to open all the news possible because I can already see the end of the line here. I might be experiencing a bit of an issue where there's where the Twitter feeds are not in order again still. So you're using this, I'm using the new layout in the hopes that I would get to see all the new tweets, but even in this instance, it seems like that's not the case. So yeah, we're still definitely running into things. Looks like we finally got our daily, weekly, or bi-weekly release of adult games on Steam, so that once again stops being a concern. It's kind of silly that you have to just kind of be afraid of that happening every week. If I do one more damage and he hits a bomb, I'll win.
Amazing.
So I think once I get down to the bottom of our once we get down to the news here, I don't think I'm gonna break up the recording. I think we'll just have one long episode today, because if I break up the recording, then all of today is gonna be me just talking about Linux and server stuff and computer stuff, and putting that at the beginning certainly is kind of boring for people not interested in that, certainly. But it was what I do, and really talking about what I accomplished in between each Hearthstone stream is a small effort to keep yourself accountable. Just saying it out loud, saying it to somebody, even if you're saying it to basically nobody on YouTube or very few people on YouTube.
You have been.
Darn it. I don't need a free victory, I need to play. I'll take a free victory, though. Okay, so there's a story here, and Twitch either implemented or has had this issue where they were this feature where they were recommending videos and channels to people who are watching other videos and channels. That's not crazy. That's not different than what YouTube does in part. There are recommended channels that were a feature. I think they finally took down that feature on people's YouTube pages. Who actually goes to people's YouTube pages? Basically nobody. You click the subscribe button and it doesn't really take you to their channel anymore, particularly on mobile app. But on the side there were recommended channels, and certainly there are recommended videos that you're offered at the end of watching anything like that, any video. So that's it's not crazy, but what happened is Ninja, who just got, I believe it was over $25 million to go and stream exclusively for Mixer, or at least mostly exclusively for Mixer. Ninja's Twitch channel still exists. I don't know what he's doing with it, if he's doing anything with it. And they recommended videos of, I think, porn. I think it was straight up that. I don't think it was that they recommended a saucy body painting video, but it could have been. It could have been a Twitch thought style video. But whatever it was sexually explicit content being recommended to Twitch, who is the biggest streamer of Fortnite and has a considerably large, one would assume, and I think one could easily prove, child following. And he was not happy about it, and he called him out. So then the response on Twitter here from Emmett Shear, who is the CEO of Twitch and player of games. If we could look at this picture a little bit bigger, he does look to me like at most he's 38, 40, probably way too young to be a CEO, and that has been an accusation that has been put out there, is that Twitch is run by a bunch of childish young people, and it's run unprofessionally and poorly, and this incident would be more evidence of that. He puts out this tweet: our community comes to Twitch looking for live content to help ensure they find great live channels. We've been experimenting with showing recommended content across Twitch, including on streamers' pages that are offline. This helps us, so that just explains that's how the videos, the objectionable videos, were on Ninja's things. This helps streamers as it creates new community connections. However, the lewd content that appeared on that Ninja's offline channel page grossly violates our terms of service, and we've permanently suspended the account in question. 3. Why knows all the good news is under the first post, which is way below what you could have posted, and then the first response here is hidden. Then the second response: 3. We have also suspended those recommendations while we're investigating how this content came to be promoted. So they don't even know how it came to become promoted. And on a personal note, we apologize. Want to apologize directly. I think that should be and want to apologize to Ninja that happens. I apologize, want to apologize directly to it. It wasn't our intent, but it should have not happened. No excuses. So the CEO can't even get his fourth tweet out right. And you can edit tweets. There's no reason that you would have it written so poorly, other than you just are incompetent, and that seems to be the case, if I were to guess. So yeah, that's a big story, and there's really no reason for this to have gone here. This is considerably an issue that continues to happen, is that either Twitch needs to recognize that there are a lot of streamers out there that are trying to use sex to sell, and they need to adopt standards that are equally enforced, or they need to realize that they actually are just a porn hub, and that's where they're going with it. It probably wouldn't be terrible to address both markets, since there clearly is a market for both markets. So if there was gamergirls.xxx, if Twitch made a side service like that, where these are gamer girls that I guess play video games topless or something like that, or completely nude, if that's what people wanted, or if they wanted to make a entire service that is just centered around being one of those thoughts, that's fine. And you have the gamer guys too. Make your separate site from that. That'd be fine. And then you just say Twitch is the kid-friendly location. It wouldn't be terrible, frankly, if there was a Twitch adult website that had sections that are actual gameplay too. I would be perfectly happy playing a lot of visual novels and a lot of adult games on a Twitch adult site. Or you integrate that all into Twitch and you have age restrictions and you have people properly labeling things. But what is occurring right now certainly is not helping. It's just not helping the video game streaming community in general, and it's not helping the goals of Twitch itself, because Twitch certainly is not getting a good name for itself by doing or allowing these types of things. People are seemingly some people are clearly just trying to destroy Twitch for one reason or another, and a lot of people are just trying to troll. I wouldn't even be surprised if it turns out that there's actually some government funding behind it, like hostile governments trying to take down Twitch because of, say, people of certain countries are getting on Twitch and saying certain things that their governments don't agree with. Yeah, I could certainly see that might just be the interesting. There's a retro game person I follow called Dallas Retro Gamers on Twitch, and they're apparently upset with Spectrum internet service. They've got hashtag Spectrum sucks, hashtag Spectrum scam. So it says Spectrum's cable tries to make you pay for services that you don't use. Don't fall for the BS tactics. I just told the agent that is what's called a scam. I've certainly run into some people, but usually it's electric companies that will try to sell you or trick you into changing your service or into different plans. But the internet services try to bundle you certainly, and they try to sell you higher packages. I think my internet service provider clearly has higher packages, but I'm perfectly fine with the minimum cheapest package that they offer, and I'm a streamer, so that's got to show you something. It might be more of an issue. What the internet service providers do in particular, what do we need to do now? Druid and Rogue victories. We need to get this daily quest done because by Wednesday I'll have another daily quest. Another daily quest is going to unlock in a couple hours. What they often do on the internet service providers is they'll let you only really use your internet speeds at their maximum if 3 or 4 people are all trying to connect at the same time. They won't allow a single connection to use 100% of mostly the upload speed. So you're upload limited. Because you're upload limited, you're going to be download limited. At least that's how my internet service works. And it's definitely a problem. And certainly if I tried to have 5 people who are all streaming video at the same time, I probably would have internet trouble at that point. If I tried to have 2 people uploading to YouTube or Twitch at the same time, I'd probably have trouble with that in particular. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider and be careful of. There are better and worse internet service providers, but most of them, quite frankly, are very, very similar. Also wanted to point out that there was a sale for the Danganronpa series of games, and I think Spike Chunsoft games in general. Sadly, I was not able to use my I really couldn't justify spending the money to buy those games, which I want to get those games though because they almost never go on sale, so it would have been a really nice time to purchase those, but I'm gonna put that off. Alright, let's start going through the news and the video games because there's not really a lot here. This
free your mind from its bonds.
And then this.
Job's done.
Interesting. I didn't realize that's how this worked. After you cast or choose one, add copies of both choices to your hands. So they had to animate new cards like crazy for this to work. That was a lot of work to add that feature, but that's a nice feature, certainly for Druid. So the first game we have on Steam is called Fishman. This is clearly a low effort clicker Chinese game. English not supported, $1.99. Don't have anything else to say there. And once China entered the Steam market, they certainly didn't let up. It's been constant. TechRaptor has an article. Play NYC indie RPG Reverie Rebirth combines magic and music. Kickstarter is coming on September 1st. I like the animation style here, although let's be honest here. This looks like this is a Naruto inspired outfit, and this might be a Naruto inspired character, and it doesn't really fit the fashion style of this guy, who looks like just a kind of normal average person. Over here you have a lady who looks like she is heavily inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I don't see what's in her hands, so is she a singer? And then over here you have a lady who is in kind of a punk style fashion, but then she's playing what looks to be a banjo. Also, if you look up the combination here, you've got maybe a bass guitar here, or that just looks like an acoustic guitar. This looks like an electric guitar, and this maybe is a steel guitar. So, is this a four guitar band of people, or what? It doesn't make sense as far as that element alone. We'll look at the trailer here in a second. And didn't play fast enough. So that being thought through, clearly it isn't. And then when you look at the actual trailer here, what are we seeing? We're seeing pixelated RPG Maker style gameplay. And this is only being talked about probably because it's paying money to TechRaptor to promote Kickstarters. This doesn't look like a game I would want to kickstart at all. This looks like a terrible Final Fantasy clone. It's a great example of a game that can catch your attention by just hiring an artist to draw one image and then bait and switch you into basically having a terrible game, purchasing a terrible game because you didn't really realize that the thumbnail was in no way indicative of the game itself. At a certain point, we're going to probably have to get to a level where, on Steam in particular, people say, if your thumbnail is not indicative... I don't even know how you would say that, though, because almost even AAA games, thumbnails and title screens aren't really indicative of the graphics. So I don't know how you curate that and still be anything close to a libertarian open marketplace. It would be much easier just to say, if your game has pixel graphics, we're going to de-emphasize it because there's so many games with pixel graphics. But I'm sure there'd be a lot of people upset about that too if that happened. Let's see. Here.
For the wild.
Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, the Medieval Game XP off-screen gameplay. This is one of those videos where they put the camera in front of the video, and you can see a little bit of medieval playing here. As a remake, he's got this giant sword, and it seems like it just swings back and forth, so I don't know what other abilities medieval had, since I never played those games. But it to me looks like it is a oddly camera angled hack and slash adventure that may play well, but I don't have 100% faith it will. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a janky concept and it just doesn't work at all, from the looks of that trailer. Next we have a game on Steam here called Adam Lost Memories, which I think is probably a horror game in a spaceship. This might be an asset flip horror game, although it looks rather visually polished. That might not really mean anything, because there definitely are some asset stores out there where you can just buy visual aspects. And I'm fairly certain I have seen I've seen this same hallway. So yeah, we saw another game that used elements of this exact same hallway. This is early access for $10.49, English full audio, third-party EULA. I don't think that there's a game here based on a true story. That's BS. Huh. Let's see if this developer has made anything else. No. So the subtitle Lost Memories doesn't indicate that this is a sequel of any kind. Yep, So I don't think Adam Less Memories needs to be on the follow list. And I think, frankly, we may approach 100% terrible games today. The next game we have on Steam is called 12 Hours. I believe this is just a renaming and rebranding of another game where you were playing as a museum watchman. Looks like it's just a low effort asset flip horror game. The fact that you can peer around corners is actually surprising, but I guess they've figured out how to asset flip that also. Yep. Early access, $2.99 discounted. Again, not something I think it matters enough that I need to put it on the follow list.
Job done.
There is potentially some good news that they've now adopted some form of hand curation approval of Steam mods. I think in particular this is just to stop people from making mods that allow cheating in Counter-Strike Go, but just a hand curation of mods begins the idea of a hand approval of all games, and so if they're slowly working to automate or get really efficient on a system on mods, I wouldn't be surprised if 6 months to a year from now they say, actually we're going to give a hand approval verification to all games. But you have to be careful there, because the only things I want disapproved on Steam are just terrible low effort games. And even my own personal definition of what a terrible low effort game is probably not as accurate or consistent as it needs to be. Like, sometimes I look at a game and I think, oh, that's barely good enough. Sometimes I look at a game and go, no, that's not good enough. Speaking of not good enough, we have a game on Steam called Shards of Azuria. It's already mixed and it doesn't look that interesting. It looks like it's a tavern simulator game where you're having to craft things for some reason. I don't even care to find any more details. It's $5.59 discounted. It's English with full audio. What is that? 13 achievements? I thought it said 113 achievements. I'm like, nope.
What to do?
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Face Your Demons VR. So this is kind of the exact thing you wouldn't want in VR, is the inability to turn your head or look away from something horrific or scary. I kind of like the demon face, but they're only showing a small section of it, so they're hiding a lot here. This is a trailer that's basically a dark screenshot syndrome. So it's kind of the demon from Legend. It has been 3D modeled pretty accurately, although I think his chest is smaller. And that was a really good demon getup that they had Tim Curry in for the movie Legend. $2.99 requires VR, full English it says, but no idea as far as what the gameplay actually would be around this. Are you just floating around the demon? Are you just looking at the demon? because that's not particularly scary to everyone, myself included. It's like I've seen enough demons in TV, movie, and other places that just seeing something that looks like a demon does not immediately scare me away. Oh yeah, I was gonna mute this Twitter feed. Alright. Let's see.
What to do?
This. This. Next bit of news we have from Komatsu. River City Girls Kyoko trailer is out now, so the other girl from River City Girls, it has her own trailer. This is the Way Forward River City series spin-off in which you're playing as two very anime-looking girls whose boyfriends have been kidnapped and are playing in a beat-em-up brawler, which is an interesting idea, certainly. And I don't know if I really can jump into the River City series with River City Girls, though. I think it probably would be a little bit more fair to start with at least River City Ransom, the original, and show it off. If I was going to play River City Ransom 2, it would be an interesting opportunity for me to try and play the game in its totality if it's available on Steam from beginning to end, since I've never played the game at all. Being a beat-em-up game that was designed to steal quarters from little kids, being able to play it and just having, one would hope, an infinite number of continues, I could probably work my way through it. As long as it's not one of the more complicated pathing games, which I know there are some beat-em-ups like that, where you can choose whether you're going one way or the other, and that will change the experience. As long as there's not something like that, I greet you. I can easily play it in just a few hours. Gee, I'm starting to wonder where I'm gonna be at here. Let's try Rogue. I kind of need a fast victory on Rogue, and then just a regular game on Rogue would be nice. And that might be kind of it, because we're burning through the news really fast, and we're going to. So, Gamma Sutra has the article. Valve turns to hands-on moderation to solve Steam Workshop woes. Valve has tweaked their approval process for Steam Workshop submissions, adding a human element to the second step of the process for certain workshops. Certain workshops being, I think, specifically Counter-Strike Go. It really is another example of just how much Counter-Strike Go is a main focus as far as Valve is, and if Counter-Strike Go ever stops making their money with the skin trading and such, they're going to be in real trouble. They've really got all their eggs in one basket, and they need to consider not doing something like that. The article continues. The new approval process itself is detailed in a short post on Steam's support portal and was spotted in action over the weekend by users of the Counter-Strike Global Offensive subreddit. According to a number of avid Counter-Strike Go players in the thread, scam submissions have become an issue in the game's user-made content portal, and this boost in moderation will help curb that. For certain workshops that have been targeted of this scam, scams leading to hijacked accounts newly submitted and updated items will be placed on a moderation queue, reads the post. You'll be able to view and edit the content during the process, but only players will not be able to view or change. But other players will not be able to view the changes until they're approved. Valve notes that updates to the existing workshop submissions will also require manual approval, and the process itself should take less than a day. The article concludes.
Here we go.
This is the second time Valve has turned to human moderation to solve long-standing issues that have crept up on the digital game storefront. Let's see. Recently, the company rolled out sweeping changes to how the game developers alter their listings release date for upcoming games on Steam. This shift removes the ability to make changes at will, instead requires devs to email Valve for approval. So yeah, Valve is doing things that people have said Valve should have done for a couple years. So I guess eventually they get the message, which is better than some companies certainly. Konami I don't think ever gets the message. EA I don't think ever gets the message, so it's better than nothing. But certain workshops and manual approvals, until they get those procedures done or get it automated in part at least, I don't think that's going to lead to all submissions for all workshops or all submissions for video games anytime soon. I'd say probably a year minimum. Next we have a game on Steam called Anodyne 2 Return to Dust. This is a weird game because it's just kind of all over the place. It's already on my following list, so I've seen this before. Maybe TechRaptor talked about it. Not 100% sure though that this is actually a game that is something I would want to play.
I wonder.
You can see that on my wish list, other games that they've made are a game called Even the Ocean and a game called Anodyne 1. And Anodyne 1 looks very much like a Game Boy Legend of Zelda game, whereas Anodyne 2 looks like it's trying to make a 3D Zelda game. Is there anything else that they've made? Nope. So I have yet to dip a toe into this company and find out if I really want to play their games or not, but
Too soon.
I'm kind of willing to try it.
Here we go.
There we go. I guess since it's on the follow list already, there's no reason for it to leave the follow list, so I can just close that tab. Next we have a Gamma Sutra article. Split Milk Studios has canceled the upcoming sci-fi MMO Lazarus. I believe this was being developed on the Amazon programming language, and this is yet another game that's been given up. Yes, it says Lazarus is now becomes one of a growing number of spatial OS titles that have been scrapped in recent months, following in the footsteps of the multiplayer sandbox World of Drifts and battle royale shooter Maverick's Proving Grounds. The game will officially be shut down on Thursday, September 12th. They plan to host a farewell stream. Lazarus doesn't look like it's particularly of an interesting game to me anyways, and even if it was, I guess at this point it doesn't matter. So if we play this, that's kind of all I can do. If I do this, that's kind of all I can do.
Here
So I'll
we
just do
go.
this, this, and yep, in the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called New Life, which looks like an asset flip GTA game. Asset flip being probably not the right word for this, because it kind of does look like there's quite a lot more assets in this that are being used than you normally would see. From the looks of it, seems to be a game designed around being able to do anything and everything, kind of like Second Life, but in all honesty, I bet it just plays horribly, and we can see it's rated very negatively already. $17.99, and English full audio. See review. I bought it and got stuck in the apartment and could not leave at all. The game is literally so far from done you would not believe. The game is basically broken. You earn money by buying seeds, going to refund the game. Absolute garbage. Alright, let's play this.
Who goes there?
And
This guy's
Who goes there?
Here we go.
and then do this. This. Next, we have a game on Steam called Raid on Area 51, which is clearly an asset flip troll game. We can see here it's a low effort first person shooter. Oddly, you're seemingly playing as the defenders of Area 51, the military, instead of the people who are claiming they're going to actually try and Naruto run onto the base. $4.99. This is a troll game. This is the entire raid on Area 51 is a troll. Like it's a joke. Is there possibly some political motivations in it? I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that there actually is some Russian web Facebook page or actor out there that encouraged this. Like, if we could do the same, it would be to our advantage, certainly, to potentially cause a controversy or frustration between the U.S. government, because if even one person shows up trying to raid Area 51 and get shot, well, then you've got the U.S. government shooting a U.S. citizen for being stupid, basically, for lack of a better term. And that's not going to play well. That's going to certainly sow in some unhappiness, to say the least. And
Yeah, beat it.
so
Here we go.
So I could certainly see reasons why you, if you were trying to damage the relationship between the U.S. and government, the U.S. government and its citizens more than it already is damaged, encouraging something like this happens. And inherently, anyone that's shot or stopped at Area 51 also feeds into conspiracy theories. Ideally, what the best thing you could do is just say, hey, how about we give you a tour? We've decided to open up Area 51 as a museum, and we're going to let everybody come in and make a tour. And we've already moved all the top secret stuff. Frankly, my understanding is the top secret stuff at Area 51, their aerospace research that they were doing, has long since been moved to other locations. So it's just a base there for no reason. They would be better to turn it into a public base that does tours. Like, turn it into one of these STEM educational programs and encourage all the kids to go to Area 51 and give them Area 51 badges and just like, sure, go into it hard and and then you can make a fun game with it and roll with the troll. That would be their best move. If they can't do that, then their best bet is to beanbag and trank dart anybody that shows up and hope only 1 or 2 people show up in total. If it gets down to the point where they're tear gassing people or actually shooting bullets at people, that's ridiculous, and that won't play out well for anyone.
5 more.
From nothing.
Let's see. Okay. Is there a way I can win here, or am I about to lose?
Amazing.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Color Slayer, which is definitely not a game that's going to be good for colorblind people. It seems like it's an infinite line runner, where you're kind of on a music track trying to slay colors. This feels like it's an asset flip game though, and maybe you're changing the color of your outfit on the fly. So it's kind of like Beat Saber, except for you're running forward and it's definitely an asset flip game. I'm trying to think if there actually is a game in this though. Probably not. $1.79 discounted. English full audio, 26 achievements. Mostly an achievement game. I feel like when you're going to, if you're going to play a game where the character is flying forward, it probably needs to be kind of like a shoot 'em up game more than a strategy game like Ikaruga, where you have to switch different kinds of bullets and shields to actually succeed. Ikaruga and the really difficult shoot 'em up games are asking way too much, frankly. So yeah, I would not think that you could make a gameplay like that. You could have a character flying forward and shooting just a lot, like non-stop. Don't even have to press a button to shoot. But I think that's about all you could do. Next, we have a game on Steam called Extricate. It looks suspiciously like Portal a little bit, and it has portals, and you're jumping and avoiding lasers and spikes, and maybe those aren't portals, maybe those are jump pads. I think they're actually jump pads, they just kind of look like portals.
Time waits for no one.
You can kind of tell this is an asset flip game that is just a avoidance of danger style of gameplay. So yeah, I don't think it's the kind of gameplay anybody really wants to play. It's a platformer and nothing but a platformer, and I don't think you want to play 100% platformer. You need a story, you need some other reasons to do things. Now, also, this is $8.24 discounted, so it's pretty expensive. English interface and 28 achievements, which seems like a high amount of achievements. And yeah, it just doesn't have a lot of visual variety. Polish, yes, because these are pre-purchased assets. There is some polish here. Visual consistency, not really. There's way too much red in every single scene, and the only blue you ever see are the platforms. There's definitely a better color-coded language you could try to implement in something like this. And that didn't happen. So yeah, Extricate not making it to the fall list. This is gotta be the last game we play on the European account, and I'll just have to do more gameplay off screen. Next we have a game on Steam called Codemancer. This looks like, is this a programming language game? Looks like it is, but all visual programming. Interesting. We've seen several of these before, and this one might actually be more educational focused than just visually good looking, because you can see the art's not that great. So I've got to put this on the follow list. $9.99, English full audio. I've got to put this on the follow list just to see if it is a good programming game. We still have yet to see enough programming games, and a visual idea of programming is probably a good place to start. Although, frankly, you probably would want a better, more well-known company to do something like this, like Lego, the latest Lego Mindstorm equivalent. Software is pretty good, and their new expansion is a bunch of R2-D2 things you can build out of Lego and then control.
Minions, take to the streets this week.
So yeah, there's certainly some issues that you could work on.
Free your mind from its bond.
Right. Twin spell, give your minions +1/+1. Alright, can't do that yet.
Attack mode!
I'm a little surprised we found even one game that might be good enough to be on the follow list. Or one game that's making it to the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam called Elisa, which is a visual novel. But it just seems to me to be a Western visual novel with a Western art style. And every time I see something like that, that's interesting to me, because you don't see a lot of those that are done well. This has like a soft color painting, oil painting feel to it. It's about an AI counselor called Elisa. I don't know if you're really going to be playing as Elisa or if you're going to be playing as that. It's an interesting idea too, to get into deeper and more impactful storylines by having a counselor be a central element of the story. Let's see, $14.99. It's already on the following list, so I must have heard about it before. It's from Zachtronics. Interesting. Really. So the programming language developers for Opus Magnum and Shinzen.io and Infinite Factory, they're going a different direction that way. So yeah, I think Elisa, maybe this visual novel is in part built around the idea that you have to program the AI therapist. Let's do this.
What shall we hunt?
Are any of these treants? No. Oh well, next turn I can probably win. So yeah, Elisa's staying on the follow list. TechRaptor has an article. These Destroy All Humans Collector's Editions will destroy all wallets. So THQ Nordic, in their effort to rip people off by re-releasing old games, have gone really crazy into this route. You can see there's keychains, dolls, statues, big boxes, posters, pencil boards it looks like, which are just small posters. Here you have a backpack keychain doll, another giant statue, and then what else do we have? Those are the two. So the most expensive is $399.99. The least expensive collector's edition is $149.99. That's crazy. +2 attack. So if I do this and then this, that should be enough to win. So I need to get another victory off screen, but frankly we're going to be done with the news and done with the stream before I probably would get that third victory. So let's move over to the Asian account so we can do the Tavern Brawl, which arguably maybe I should just start with the Tavern Brawl. Yeah. If I really thought about the procedure, yeah, I should probably just start on the Asian account on Mondays, start on the Americas account on Wednesdays, and start on the European account, and that way we are always right there to do the Tavern Brawl at the beginning of the videos in case people just want to watch the Tavern Brawl and nothing else. Alright, what are we going to reroll? We have Shaman cards, which should be easy. Then we have Rogue Warrior and Rogue Druid. I think Rogue Warrior is a little bit more difficult. So let's re-roll that. 3 bosses. Well, that's not going to be great either. So, Shaman deck then. Let's see. Let's see how many Shaman cards are in the Shaman deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not a lot. Is there some other Shaman deck I can play? An Overload deck, perhaps. Alright, there's more Shaman cards here. So if I copy this, we'll play that on this Tavern Brawl. This Brawlseum, this Brawlseum in general is, I don't think, anything too special. Guess I should say I was happy to see that the notifications went out today very early once I started streaming. I had a small fear after messing with my Wi-Fi settings and router settings that there would be a lot of that it might have some trouble or effect there, but I doubted it really would.
For Doomhammer.
Yeah, router's configuration sucks, and frankly, I took an entire class in router configuration specifically for configuring Cisco routers a long time ago, and it was not taught well, and it did not specifically anything I learned from that, I think at best I could say, was then used later on to grow better, more relevant, more useful information. And I don't think I do particularly too well configuring a Cisco router. But maybe I would, because nowadays it might be as simple as, oh, you just load up this web page and turn on the settings the way you want them. So I probably still would do pretty well with them. I'm doomed to lose here. I really don't. I don't have a way to stop that from happening.
Onward to adventure.
I guess what I'm looking for is I can't attack until I can get the health up. So I just have to end my turn every turn. Could do something like this, and I could do something like this, though. Alright, next Gamer Sutra has an article. Epic is being sued over the security issue that left Fortnite players' data exposed. Not surprising, although in fairness to Epic, I will say I've forgotten about this issue even happening, so we'll see if this becomes like a class action lawsuit and how much that really does or fixes anything. Inherently, a lot of these class action lawsuit style experiences don't work out in the favor of much of anybody. Explosive trap triggers when you attack a friendly face too. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think we're at the point where it's a class action suit where you could file for any reimbursement if you played Fortnite and they lost your information or leaked your information. So we're still at that point where I think we'd need more work to be done.
I must insist.
So that really is the kind of story that I would follow up on when there's actually actionable information. But it's worth reporting that, say, the lawsuit started. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Gen Con 2019 digging up the dirt on Shovel Knight Dungeon Duels. I believe Shovel Knight Dungeon Duels, this is old. Oh, is it a tabletop game? I thought it was a Smash Brothers clone. Alright, well apparently it's a tabletop game. With the Shovel Knight name on it. I kind of recall that there was something like that. Somewhat forgot. 2.
Elements guide me.
If I can get one that will do +1 damage, that would help. I'd get up to 12. I feel like the weekend was just slow, and that's why there's no real news. I don't think there's anything else that could be said with that. Right. Next spell I cast costs 3 less. So this will win the game for me. Gamer Sutra has an article, ESPN and ABC have delayed an Apex Legends tournament broadcast in the wake of shootings. Delaying anything in the wake of shootings is a bad plan in the US because like mass shootings as they're defined as being 3 or more people are so commonplace and underreported because they're so common. Only massive mass shootings, I guess, would be a new phrase to coin, happen with some rarity, and even that rarity isn't that rare. So delaying things is ridiculous. Delaying things because it's a video game tournament and the NRA and basically nobody else who has any credibility, which includes the NRA, want to blame video games for massive mass shootings is ridiculous. And feeding into this and giving it any legitimacy is just unacceptable. It really, really is. It is this fear that the nobodies on Twitter are going to revolt and cry foul if you do what was already announced to be done.
Elements guide me.
Come on. If this guy manages not to get any more health, I think I can win next turn. Assuming I don't die here.
Your wish is my suggestion. Thanks.
Oh, that's one loss. I don't feel like I played too badly, but you know what? I played the Shaman cards. We've got like 18 more to do. We'll get that daily quest done, at least with the Tavern Brawl. Next, we have an article from TechRaptor, hands-on with Chroma Vaders, a compelling mashup of Galaga and Columns. The idea of playing Galaga and Columns together is an interesting mashup concept. Just on the face of it, I don't know how fun the game really would be. So, you're a spaceship in a Tetris column game, and they shoot at you, and you shoot at them, and anything you miss falls down in the bottom. Or is it different than that? And that seems like it. In a nutshell. This is an interesting concept of a game that might actually just play terribly, though. I mean, it seems like it's moving rather fast, and the idea that you could lose in two different ways is pretty complicated. And the idea that you're going to have to focus on so many different things is a little complicated. So it might just overly complicate the gameplay to the point of it not being interesting. Speaking of not being interesting, we have a game on Steam here called Lightman, which is just an asset flip game trying to be a platformer. Take note here, they've got a character that is super tall and realistic in proportion, and because of that he was definitely struggling to have to make it up and down the blocks. So the character is way too big for the area that's being depicted.
I can't do that. Well played.
Just going in the turn. Lightman is not supporting English, so it's probably a cheap Chinese game for $2.99. Actually, it's labeled French for $2.99. And I've gotten to the point where I'm just blaming every low-effort non-English game on the Chinese, and that's not fair, although somewhat accurate. Alright, this guy is not going to shut up, so we'll squelch him. Like, I get it. You're a bit peeved because it took me a little long to play my first turn. Next we have an article on Gamasutra. After 24 years at id, Tim Willits is now Saber Interactive's Chief Creative Officer. So id Software, the developers of Doom and soon to be released Doom Eternal, has just lost another major creative person who's been there for 24 years. Now, in fairness, my personal opinion is that people that worked at id were not super interested in making video games as much as they were interested in making and potentially selling they're making and selling the id Tech engine. Even in their initial success with Doom 1, they seemed very quick to try and get other people to make levels and make story and use the Doom engine as a way of making more content. So id never felt like it was focused on telling a story or making a narrative experience, and always felt like it was more of a engine company that happened to make some example games to sell their engine. Saber Interactive, though, on the side note, is the developer of World War Z, which I don't think is particularly that good of a company. So this feels more like a case of Tim Willits left a sinking ship to another potentially sinking ship. Not that Tim Willits is going to be in a great position to succeed. He's coming on as the Chief Creative Officer, and I just said my feeling about id is that they really had no creativity, so Tim Willits leaving might be a very good thing for id itself, because like maybe there could be a bit more of the story. Now I guess Tim Willits maybe deserves some of the ideas in the Doom reboot, but there really isn't too much in the Doom reboot to say that was creative. Like it's very boilerplate, very bland in its story. The article continues. Willits joined the studio as the new chief creative officer, a position he tells Fortune puts him in charge of shaping and maintaining the company's overall creative vision across its 5 studios. Though Saber itself employs upward of 400 developers overall, the move also seems Willits working alongside smaller teams at those individual studios. The agility of small teams and opportunity to get stuff done quickly can't be overrated. I'm not saying anything bad about id Software parent company Bethesda. I love them, but smaller teams are exciting and fun. When someone has a good idea, we jump on it. If it doesn't work out, we change it quickly. Willits first joined id Software back in 1995 and worked on Doom 3, Quake, Rage, and several other of the studio's projects over the 24-year tenure. So he's in the worst position too, as far as what he worked on. Like he worked on the worst Doom. Quake 4 I really don't have anything to say about, but I doubt it was that interesting. And Rage 1, which Rage 1 was a mess of a game, although I do still kind of want to play it at some point. But I definitely am not interested in playing Rage 2. So, yeah. So, I don't know what you really take from a story like this, other than he's probably not going to do anything too exciting at Saber Interactive, and he definitely didn't do anything too exciting or quality wise at id. Id's 24 years plus of not doing anything interesting seems to be heavily centered around Tim Willits. Now, Bethesda losing people is maybe slightly an interesting recognition, but it's not that interesting. Come on. Seriously? That was a waste. Gamma Sutra has an article here called Book Excerpt. How data miners shed light on PT's ghost story. This is an example of talking about PT when there's really no reason to be talking about PT right now. If you want to read this article, it's here, but I think everybody probably has better things to do. In the end, there might be a good definitive article to say or make around around what happened at well, what happened for Konami, what happened at Konami and such, but
Lightning can strike twice.
there's a element here that needs to be considered, that we have to wait for Death Stranding to come out and be successful, frankly, to do a complete report on PT and then interview the creator of PT and Death Stranding. So a 10-year retrospective at this point should be the next time anybody actually talks about PT. Moving on, we have an article from Komatsu. There's an exclusive Trine for the Nightmare Prince behind the studio's developer diary. Again, here's a video if you want to watch it. It's not really worth my time though. YouTube Gaming, remember that existed? They tweeted 2 hours ago, and this is stupid, really. The DuckTales Remastered might be gone from the stores, but you can still take a trip down memory lane with this person on YouTube. Interesting that they would promote somebody streaming a game that's no longer available for purchase. I mean, that's kind of the opposite of advertising for a game. And YouTube Gaming has been mostly silent lately. I don't think they've said anything or done anything interesting, and I think they've mostly been abandoned as a concept. Like, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to make a YouTube Gaming Twitter feed and post when YouTube Gaming itself is gone. So we need to play 4 more cards, and if we can get as many victories as possible, that's nice. Speaking of gone, Gamma Sutra has an article. Mojang has cancelled Minecraft's big graphics overhaul to adjust performance struggles. And apparently video is not available. The Super Duper graphics pack announced at E3 back in 2017 will no longer see the day. Reason for the cancellation, Mojang notes that in a post, is the addition proved to be too difficult to implement without the game having significant impact on Minecraft's performance. The pack aimed to build Xbox One X and high-end PC targeted enhancements into Mojang's still thriving blocky builder. Let's see. Including 4K and HDR support, new shaders, and lighting effects. Which shaders and lighting effects have already been modded into Minecraft, so I don't know why you really need to change the visuals too much. There is a consistent visual language with Minecraft that I don't think you want to lose or change. making it hyper realistic when people do use those shaders makes it also not feel like Minecraft to me. So that's something I would also keep in the back of my mind before I would do anything else. Let's see, Minecraft has been around since 2009, so it's 10 years old at this point, which is another thing to consider. As a 10-year-old game, updating the graphics is only going to do so much. It's not going to get a lot of new players in the door. You could try, I suppose, to make a Minecraft 2. But that would be kind of crazy because you'd have to do a totally different concept and lose a bunch of features to add a bunch of features. And it is an unenviable position, certainly, to recognize and see that it is really hard for Mojang to add new content to Minecraft and make it still feel like Minecraft, and yet they pretty consistently do that. There hasn't been anything added that's too crazy or overlooked. The craziest thing I think that they added was the mansions with the what is it? Whatever gives you the Totem of Undying. I think it's called a Reaver or something. That's about the only thing that's felt too weird. The fact that there are now raiders that attack villagers is asking certainly more than you normally would expect from Minecraft. Let's see. +2 health and taunt. Game Sutra has an article here. Get a job. Game Closure is hiring a systems engineer. I don't think Game Closure is a good name for a company at all, but otherwise that's in San Francisco, California. Systems engineer, a kind of nebulous term, meaning someone that I think can program systems to work in games, like a health system, a life system, a magic system. Basically, anything you could call a system, which is just about anything, would probably be asked of a systems engineer. It's probably better described as just a programmer, in fairness.
Elements guide me. Elements guide me.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Desert of the Dead. It looks like it's just an RPG Maker game with a Western theme, which you don't see a lot of RPG Maker games with a Western theme. Probably because most Western environments are very open-ended, and that just makes the repeating tile set even more obvious. But the graphics don't look interesting. It's $2.39, English and Russian, so it's maybe a Russian drill game, maybe not, but yeah. Let's see how this works. Here. Attack here, and attack here, and then the turn. If I could get the card that makes spells cast twice, then I could win here. Next we have a game on Steam called AV or Delta V. I think it's actually Delta V as in Delta Velocity, which is a term I learned from Kerbal Space Program, Rings of Saturn. Otherwise, this looks like it's a space fly-around game of some sort. Kinds that never interest me. Although it is an interesting logo. They actually thought they figured out a really good name and a good logo to go with that name. Early access, $9.99, and a bunch of language support. Somebody needs to steal their logo and their name and make an actual good game, I guess. I don't think I'm gonna win any other way. I don't think I can win even with the way I was gonna win at this point. Next we have a game on Steam called Terror TD, which looks like some kind of terrible tower defense. Maybe that's what it stands for. See, $8.99, English and Japanese in the language. There's nothing here that interests me visually. So, yep, that's not a game that's making it to the follow list. So I played all the shame cards, and I need to play one more of these to finish the Tavern Brawl. Because I want to get it done before the new Tavern Brawls happen, specifically on Wednesday. And then that once I'm done with the news, that'll be the end of the stream. Next we have a game on Steam called Zoological Era 3. This looks like this is an RPG Maker MX game or MV game with some ridiculously terribly animated anthropomorphic animals. And that seems like it is the RPG fight sequences only. Like, I'm not seeing any screenshots of there being anything else. It's $14.99, which is way too expensive, so. And this thumbnail doesn't really do it. Doesn't sell the game accurately. Yeah, this thumbnail's way better animated than these MS Paint looking graphics. Gamatsu has an article, Romancing Saga 3 Remaster in the final adjustment stage. News set for Tokyo Game Show 2019. So, an announcement for an announcement, effectively. Oh man, that's not what I meant to do. Gamatsu has an article here. System Shock 2 Enhanced Edition has been announced, developed by Night Dive Studios. I think the System Shock 1 Enhanced Edition already came out and was given to people who owned the original game for free. So the question here would be, are you going to get the enhanced edition of System Shock 2 for free also? And it is also questionable what status are we in for the remake of System Shock. Is that still actually in development? Is it being developed by Night Dive Studios, or is it being developed by a different company? I feel like the licenses for the games System Shock 1, 2, and the remake have transferred hands a few times in the development, and that's interesting to say the least also. Next we have a game on Steam here called Ginga Kage Kinam, which looks like another J-pop game, although in this case you are really low down where you actually would be if you're watching a presentation, but it has the side effect of all the anime characters on the stage being blocked by this Beat Saber gameplay. So all that choreographed dancing goes to waste. I don't really see the appeal for this. I think a lot of it is the music itself. This requires VR, so this is another example of people having their head down in VR while recording. It's 99 cents for a VR program, which is way too cheap, and it's English and Japanese. I thought maybe it would have been a Chinese product. So at 99 cents for VR, it's basically promotion for it's basically just promotional material for something else, I would guess. But it has that problem of being VR only, so even at 99 cents, you're still asking somebody to have a $600 VR headset minimum. Why even ask the 99 cents at that point? Why not just give it away for free? Next game, I thought this would have been a game with nudity in it, but apparently it's not. It's a bunch of Asian things. It's called 3 Moe Moe World War II 3. This seems to me like this might be stolen art and stolen concepts. At least in part, it is Azure Lane as a concept being stolen by a Chinese company, and then the actual game seems to be a lot more simplistic than what I think the Azure Lane games are. English was not supported. It's $24.99, and you can see it says Japanese full audio and then traditional Chinese. Maybe this is a Japanese developer that's stealing Azure Lane as a concept, the personification of naval battleships, particularly U.S. naval battleships, as anime girls. That concept is unique enough that I think, in part, belong to Azure Lane.
Elements guide me.
Did not play fast enough. Yeah, well, it's really no big loss. Moe Moe World War II-3 is not, doesn't look that interesting. The only other game on Steam that this developer has is a $60 negatively rated game. Let's see. It's called Dyson Raw UK Perfect. Mostly negative. And yeah, it's just a military strategy game. It does not look that interesting.
See. The rage. It claims me.
I guess we could look at the publisher and see if they've published other things. No, they haven't. Let's see. This.
Lightning can strike twice.
This. And this. For victory. Might as well keep on playing. If we're gonna keep on winning, we'll keep on playing. I have about 6 more games to talk about. Next we have a game on Steam called Manoa City Parking, which looks like it's a mobile ported to Steam. There's just a lot of very large icons and indicators on the screen for no reason. This doesn't look terrible as far as the color rendering. The city looks pretty bad though, and the cities themselves streets seem to be very much small sections. So while it's called parking, the
will
gameplay
fight
here
with
does not look
for
like you actually
Doomhammer.
park anywhere. It seems more like you're just kind of working your way through randomly generated barricades and getting to specific checkpoints. Which definitely is not what parking is about, if you're doing it right. 99 cents, English only. Not a quality enough game to justify being on the follow list by a long meter. Next we have a game on Steam called Codemancer, which, wait a minute, we already looked at Codemancer. I'm back on Codemancer, I guess, somehow. I clicked on the wrong thing. So, next we have on the list is Decisions, which looks like a low-effort troll game from the video. Probably mostly text-based. Early access, $3.19, English full audio. Yeah, that's nothing. That's a nothing game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Graphy 3, which seems to be a simplistic, like, physics type game. A little bit like Flappy Bird, I think. You're pushing a button that's changing the gravity. It feels like, it looks like this is probably a mobile game, again ported to Steam. Looks too simplistic. It has the same background always. It's just a random placement and assortment of dangerous objects. It's selling for discount for $1.19 and is bundled with 47 other items for $31.75, which tells you it's not quality. Has a whole bunch of language support and 100 achievements, telling you again it's an achievement game. So it's got everything wrong with it that could be possibly wrong with it. Just hit that. I'm gonna have to take back what I said. I don't think any of these games are actually adult games. So the counter is still going. Not surprising. I would expect it to be next Friday when then we start seeing adult games come out again. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they always do it on Fridays. But then if they wait till Friday, that's nearly 3 weeks. Could just also be that no adult games are trying to come out right now, and that has something more to do with just the scheduling of when Japanese games in general come out. If the Golden Week happened, for instance, I don't know when that happened, but if that happened a few weeks ago, that might explain why they haven't done anything in the meantime. Or if perhaps Golden Week is about to happen, that might be an explanation too. Next we have a game on Steam called Black Butterfly. It's a NES looking platformer game. It looks like this is probably a Chinese game that was originally developed to run on a Famicom clone game, and now they're trying to sell it on PC. Or it's just another terrible game that's trying to have that retro aesthetic for no reason. It's early access for $4.24 discounted. English and a bunch of languages. What's interesting is it's in an Asian language, but there's no Asian language listed here at the top. Chinese and Japanese are in the list of all the languages they say they support. So why would you put the update out in what I'm assuming is Chinese, but then not have that at the top of the list? 3 games now left, and then I'll go through the Twitter feed again since we started early. Next we have a game here called Run Bunny, which seems to be designed for kids but poorly quality style games. It seems like you're kind of just constantly avoiding getting hit, which really would just lead to a lot of frustration. And yeah, I don't see how the kid-friendly aesthetic of the visuals actually would relate to the actual gameplay. There's kind of a reason why Super Meat Boy looks like a grotesque Super Mario Brothers game, because adults who are good at games can appreciate that, whereas a 6-year-old trying to play Super Meat Boy would probably go insane. Anyways, Run Bunny is $2.09 discounted. It's a cheap Chinese game. No real surprise there. Here. If I can get it down by like 7, a little bit more than 7, 9. Yeah, 9 damage. I could win, but I'm probably not going to. Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. Visually this actually looks rather interesting as a more thought out platformer game. Unfortunately I can already guess that it doesn't support English, and the video is just showing some platforming and attacking the wall, and that's it. English is not supported. It's $14.39. It's Chinese only. Even at this, while the video is slightly interesting, you don't really see any enemies on the screen, and you don't see it change up the gameplay ever. So this feels like this very easily could be a better visually polished 5-minute game demo than what you'd really expect it to do or be. Alright, well, it'll be interesting.
Elements guide me. Thank you. Elements guide me. Job's done.
Well, with that should be my last gameplay. Next we finally have a game called Reflecting Reflections, which looks like a terrible low effort game. We don't even need to watch the video any further. It's maybe the movements reflect your own actions, but it visually is just so horrible that I wouldn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. This is discounted to $12.74. This game in no way deserves that much. English full audio, 10 achievements, all numbers. Clearly an achievement game. So, in the end, there was one game, which was Codemancer today, that actually deserves to be on the follow list. And I'm now at the Humble Bundle, and I'm just going to quickly look to see if there's a new Humble Bundle. The Crusader Kings 2 bundle has like 19 hours more to it, and that's the only bundle of interest. Yeah. So, alright, where are we now? I'm gonna have to play off screen on the European account to get a victory, one more victory, and then on the Asian account I'm gonna have to play to defeat the Delarian heist, which means I might as well just start with chapter 1 because I haven't done any of those. Then I'm just want to scroll down here. Gemetzer has an article Call of Duty Modern Warfare has 24 minutes of multiplayer gameplay, if that interests you. Cosplayer dressed up as one of the characters from We Happy Few, and We Happy Few Compulsion Games, the developer of We Happy Few Compulsion Games, tweeted that out. Let's see. LA Noire, the VR case files have been rated for PS4 in Europe. That's not surprising. I'm fairly certain I already knew that they were taking the case files elements of LA Noire and making it into a PlayStation VR game. Gamma Sutra has an article, Get a Job, Insomnia Games is hiring a lead character designer, technical designer, I believe. I'll talk about that more. The Twitter has allowed you to put out polls now, and they always feel like I'm gonna accidentally click the button. Gamma Sutra talked about the Twitch CEO apologizing after a lengthy porn stream was promoted on Ninja's old channel. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, I could show this, I guess. Insomniac Games is hiring a lead character, TD. That's in Burbank, California. We've talked about that job listing now. And it seems, unless my Twitter feed is just all messed up, nothing has happened news-wise. So we are done. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.